Hey everybody, Gary with Trueline RV. I know it's been a while, but we're back here to talk to you about power, specifically DC power, new charging system. Everybody wants more power. They want the ability, no matter what they have, to go out for longer where they can't plug in and spend more time without having to run their generator and charge up their batteries. Um, this particular case has a few complex issues, but the bottom line is more batteries, always good. Of course, it gives you more power, but don't just go to the battery guys. The battery guys are great for batteries. They sure do know their batteries, but they don't know the rest of your RV. In this case, we have I believe this is a 2005, 2006 Holiday Rambler. These are the inverter chargers back here behind me. Um, this this gentleman upgraded to about, I believe it's 1,500 amp hours worth of batteries. If you're familiar with batteries at all, that's actually a pretty good amount. The problem with that is your RV typically either has a converter or, in this case, an inverter, two inverters in this one, to help give you 110 power, obviously, from your batteries, but also when you're plugged in to charge your batteries. The problem in this case is these inverters back here are only good up to about 1,000 amp hours. So if you have 1,500 amp hours worth of batteries, what we have here is your batteries never really fully charge. Basically, it thinks they're charged, and it does its best, even in an auto mode, to calibrate and compensate. You know, some of these are fairly smart. Unfortunately, these were smart back in the day. These ones in particular discontinued back in about 2007, but not smart enough to know that there's just simply more power. So in this case, he comes in and his panel's telling him that the batteries are depleted even just a couple minutes after lighting up his inverters after a full charge. Right off the bat, we noticed a few things, not specific to what I'm trying to cover, some miswiring and things like that needed resolved for me to get a full test and come to the conclusion on this issue. But if you want to upgrade, it's always a great idea, but see your RV guys first. We'll be able to cover things like your inverters can't charge them. Now, if you have new inverters, they tend to come pre-programmed and you're okay, but it's always good to have it checked out. Now, another thing is to check out and make sure that even though they can, that they're programmed for it. You want to make sure you have the right firmware. Some of these guys here, I don't know if that's hard to see, but you know, you can go into settings and you can edit these things. This one happens to be an auto, unfortunately. Again, only auto up to 1,000. He needs 1,500, but these guys can be programmed for different amp hours. We need to make sure that that's programmed correctly for the batteries that you have. Also, it needs to be programmed for the right type of batteries. If you're switching from general lead acid car battery types to a higher end glass mat or even lithium batteries these days, we need to make sure you have the profile for it. We need to make sure that it's set up properly, because then you could end up in situations where you're either undercharging, overcharging, you're stuck in a stage too long, you end up ruining your batteries. In this case, some really expensive batteries. So I guess the tech tip is always go to your RV guys. You know, it's nice to go to the battery guys and, you know, sometimes save a few bucks because, you know, they carry a lot of batteries and they do a lot of batteries. They can save you a few bucks on batteries. It's true. And, you know, sometimes, hey, if you want to buy the batteries somewhere else and save a few bucks, that's awesome too. But when it comes to the installation and having things checked out, go to your RV guys. We'll make sure that everything's the way that it should be. And if not, we'll help you come up with a solution. Either, you know, maybe you can upgrade, but not that much, or you have to do an expensive upgrade and upgrade your charging system to accommodate for that. Another thing that can happen is your battery guys will tend to hook things up, assuming they were hooked up properly in the first place. And sometimes not even assuming, they'll just hook them up how they think right is. And another part of this is balanced and unbalanced loads. Gets really technical, but basically in this particular case, see if I can switch around here and get this in the frame. All of his terminals come to one end of his battery system. In this case, he actually has 6 of these huge batteries, and all his charging comes in at one end of the system. And what happens there is when you're charging from one end of the battery bank, you know, electricity is kind of like water. It does flow downhill to a certain extent. the theory is you can charge from one end and eventually your batteries will balance out and that electricity will flow downhill and, you know, top off the rest of your batteries. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way, especially with even smart inverter chargers. So you'll charge from one end and you deplete from one end, but when you're charging completely from one end, you will end up charging one battery always quicker than you do the rest of the batteries. And even though your system will read overall voltage, initially, if you've hit that first battery in the bank first, even the first two in the bank first, and they're fully charged, your other ones haven't completely caught up yet. And so they always balance a little bit low. If they even 100% balance at all. In this case, it needed some rewiring so that it actually charges and depletes from the overall battery bank. The short version is you always want your main positive at one end of your bank and your main negative going to the other end of the bank. That really ensures that you have a completely balanced load, charges uniform, and depletes uniform. And it just helps your smart system, even if they're not smart, keep track of all the power going in, all the power going out, and really keeps the condition of your batteries healthier longer. And it also reduces stress on your inverters, the whole system. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm trying not to get too technical and too complex. I guess the bottom line is anytime you have upgrades and things like that, every place has a specialty where, you know, for example, batteries. And that's great. But at the end of the day, even if you have something simple come from somewhere else, have it checked out by your RV guys. That's the best tip I can give. Thank you guys. You have a good day.